Gerhard Munthe began his career as a conventional painter before embracing National Romanticism and becoming an influential leader of Norway's arts and crafts movement. Hi, I'm Michelle Fakos. I've been lecturing and writing about Nordic art for decades, and I'm both a Swedish and an American citizen living part-time in Stockholm. I'm excited to share with you my research, gleaned from books, journals, letters, and conversations with other experts. I know how hard it is to find out about Scandinavian art because I had to learn to read Danish, Norwegian, Swedish, and German to do it. Are you with me? Then let's get started. Gerhard Munthe was born in Elverum, capital of the eastern Norwegian province of Østerdalen, in 1849. He moved to Christiania, now Oslo, in 1863, with plans to follow in his father's footsteps and become a doctor. However, when a local artist saw his drawings, he encouraged young Munthe to become an artist, a career change that his parents enthusiastically supported. Munthe studied with this man, the landscape painter Johan Friedrich Eckersberg, in 1870. Munthe then attended the Royal Drawing School in Christiania, where he refined his drawing skills. Because Norway had no art academy, ambitious Norwegian painters usually traveled to Germany to continue their studies. Munthe joined them. Although he didn't enroll at the famous Dusseldorf Academy, from 1874 to 76, he studied with his artist cousin Ludwig Munthe, as well as the renowned German landscape painter Andreas Achenbach. Achenbach specialized in dramatic Norwegian landscapes such as these, that were hugely appreciated by German collectors. Here we see two paintings from Munthe's Dusseldorf period. Both depict Norwegian subjects based on sketching expeditions made during visits to Norway that would have appealed to German collectors. The idea that lakes provide a secure transport surface in winter was, and still is, an unfamiliar concept for Germans. Munthe depicted a horse-drawn sled caravan carrying hay across an ice road on a Norwegian lake. Winter in Norway was a busy time when horse-drawn sleds hauled felled trees from the forests, and when lakes frozen for months at a time provided the most direct transportation routes. This is likely a scene from early spring because cloudy weather indicates temperatures too warm for thick ice to form, and we see the thawing earth visible at the caravan's point of departure. The rowboat at right indicates that this is a lake in the thawing process. The men and horses work in the twilight, which weeks earlier would have been near perpetual, since for much of the winter in Munthe's hometown of Elverum, the sun never rises more than 30 degrees above the horizon, resulting in an eternal twilight, even when the sun is above the horizon. A decade later, Munthe recorded the hay harvest. Here, men and women worked together to gather the cut hay and arrange it on the wooden drying racks set up for this time-sensitive task. Munthe avoided the penchant for representing farm labor under idyllic conditions, sun shining in a clear blue sky sprinkled with Simpson clouds, for a more realistic depiction of Norwegian peasant life. In Europe, the construction of grain drying racks differ from region to region and are helpful elements in identifying geographical locations. In washing day, women residing in the timber village visible in the right background gather to do laundry. Washing laundry in Scandinavia was one of the several communal female activities in the 19th century, along with bread baking and sauna bathing. In the foreground, a tub of water containing laundry cooks over a fire to bleach the linens and kill germs. And to the right, a stump with a white tablecloth is elegantly set with refreshments. A woman wearing a red jacket stands on a wooden plank straddling the stream and rinses, while on the far bank, several groups of women hang laundry and iron on a wooden table. In both these paintings, Munthe adopted the naturalistic approach popular among painters at the time and had a side hustle teaching at the Art Academy in Dusseldorf. Naturalism, privileged scenes of everyday life, represented in a straightforward manner that viewers would interpret as journalistically accurate tableaus, ones that focused on generalities rather than on minute details. From 1877 to 1882, Munthe lived and worked in Munich, Germany's other important art city. There, he continued to paint singularly Norwegian motifs for an appreciative audience, as we see here. The village of Nevlunghavn lies 150 kilometers south of Oslo on Norway's east coast and is today a popular tourist spot. Munthe painted it at the height of summer, a time when the sun may dip below the horizon, but it never truly becomes dark. The intense sunlight of long summer days creates a landscape of deeply saturated colors that would have appeared novel to continental audiences. Here, Munthe declared his solidarity with progressive artists who, thanks to the invention of oil paint and tubes, began to paint directly outdoors. In Nevlungshaven, we can almost feel the warmth of the sun and the light sea breezes and smell the salty air. Although living abroad, Munthe was in close contact with his colleagues at home, and like them, he became increasingly annoyed by the lack of exhibiting opportunities at home. In 1882, when Fritz Thaulow, Christian Krogh, and Erich Werenskiold organized an independent exhibition they called the Fall Exhibition, which was held in Christiania, Munthe enthusiastically participated. Progressive artists had demanded that the Christiania Art Association include artists on its jury, but the stubborn organization refused to comply, prompting progressive Norwegian artists to boycott its exhibitions. The Fall Exhibition has occurred every year since 1882. And unlike their predecessors of the Romantic era, like Johann Christian Dahl, who concentrated on dramatic, awe-inspiring mountain landscapes and terrifying coastal scenes, these young painters focused on subjects that were native, familiar, and unpretentious. This choice was consistent with their populist worldview, one that entailed making paintings common people would understand and appreciate. In late winter 1885, Munthe made one of his very few trips to Paris, where he mingled with the extensive cohort of Scandinavian artists living there. His colleague Christian Krogh captured him at a spontaneous moment in a smoke-filled Parisian cafe, where a bald, cigar-puffing gentleman reads a newspaper while enjoying his afternoon coffee. The young artist, a symphony in black, with his attire matching his hair, eyes, and mustache, grips loosely a lit cigarette and regards his portraitist. After Munthe's short visit, he returned home. The dynamism of that international capital of culture was not a place the artist felt comfortable. In the summer of 1885, Munthe joined the merry band of Norwegian painters who installed themselves at the farm recently inherited by Christian Skredvig's wife, Maggie Platte. The farm, Fleskum, was situated in Bærum, 25 kilometers northwest of Christiania. In addition to Skredsvig and Werenskiold, Eilif Pettersson and two women, the painters Harriet Backer and Kitty Schieland, spent the summers of 1885 and 1886 painting in the bucolic countryside surrounding Bærum. There, Munthe painted a sympathetic outdoor portrait of his new bride, Sigrun Sandberg, in the kind of white linen dress favored by affluent ladies in summertime. Sigrun models patiently on a narrow path through a meadow and bordering a forest, accompanied by a dog. Her white dress harmonizes with the white flowers, perhaps daisies, dotting the field. It is a symphony in green and white. While many of his colleagues were busy in Paris attending the World's Fair, where the Eiffel Tower made its debut and Norway constructed its own pavilion based on provincial models, in 1889, Munthe remained at home in Norway, focusing on its tranquil lifestyle and nurturing environment. In spring near Lake Mjøsa, he captured a moment in spring, likely late May or early June, before leaves unfurl on the trees. On the hillside overlooking Norway's largest lake, which is situated near his childhood home in Elverum, a lone farmer plows his field, relying on the same technology utilized by Norwegian farmers for centuries. At the nearby Munthe residence, we see his toddler Oscar standing at the entrance. The family abandoned this home in 1899 when the Munthes decided to create a home they referred to as Levveld, constructed near Skredvig's farm in Bærum. Like the Larsens in Sweden, the Munthes created a home singularly suited to the lifestyle and aesthetic preferences of its inhabitants, one quintessentially Norwegian in form, color, and design. While Munthe clearly preferred living in Norway and loved its nature and culture, folk tales, with their magical and mysterious episodes, appealed to his imagination with increasing intensity. He belonged to one of the first generations subjected to the requirement to attend 7 years of schooling, during which students read books designed to foster a love of native land through informative chapters about Norwegian culture, geography, and history. The last 2 decades of the 19th century was also a time of escalating momentum for Norwegian independence from Sweden, which occurred in 1905. Related to this was growing concern about the loss of artisanal skills, an essential component of ethnic identity. Gerhard and Sigrun both found themselves attracted to this arts and crafts movement and to the mainly bourgeois men and women who supported it. Munthe began to concentrate on developing a drawing style inspired by Norwegian folk and medieval art, and with the encouragement of Sigrun, began making watercolor designs for tapestries that, initially, she wove. In his 1909 essay, Rhythmic Style, Munthe explained his transition. It was at the beginning of the 1890s that I turned toward Norwegian tradition to discover a form of expression I felt was quintessentially Norwegian in form and color. After a while, I settled on myths and folk tales. For the first time, I found myself outside our conventional aesthetic system regarding both time and subject. The most important thing for an artist is to find his or her own means of expression, their own style. During the 1890s, the handicraft revival that had been percolating for more than a decade blossomed. And in 1893, Norway's first Museum of Material Culture opened in Trondheim. That same year, Munthe's folk-style paintings were exhibited in Christiania to appreciative audiences, and in 1898, the Trondheim Museum established a weaving studio where most of Munthe's tapestry designs were executed by a skilled team of bourgeois women eager to participate in the revival of Norwegian national culture. The Three Brothers, woven by the Trondheim Collective, was among a group of Munthe's tapestries celebrated by both visitors and critics when they were exhibited at the World's Fairs in Paris in 1900 and in St. Louis in 1904. According to the legend, 3 brothers sought the hand of a princess in marriage. All 3 were transformed into different animals by the trolls we see in the left background, and only the suitor she chose would be returned to his human form. The scene recalls the simultaneous narration of Masaccio's tribute money fresco in Florence, where we see St. Peter represented 3 times, standing with Christ, then obeying his instruction to find toll money in the mouth of a fish at left, and finally giving the payment to the guard of a city gate at the right. In Munthe's design, we also see the princess 3 times, interacting first with a fish in a cascading mountain stream, then a bird, and finally a deer. The Suitors, created in 1894, represents a variation on this theme, where 3 brothers, transformed into labradoodle-sized polar bears, approach triplet sisters whose blonde hair either channels the surprise of the women or responds to a breeze blowing in from the doorway at left on a dark, starry night. The interior of their cottage is colorfully and richly patterned with checkerboards, floral patterns, and a green sea animated by blue waves and red swans. The red rooster is a more abstract design that to modern eyes appears pixelated. According to Norse mythology, 3 roosters predicted a catastrophic episode in human history. None of the existing tapestry variants explain the imagery in Munthe's design, but since he used such stories as points of departure for his creative invention, we cannot expect a more detailed narrative. The wise bird, on the other hand, tells the story of a wise king who trusted nature more than humans. When faced with a knotty problem, he went into the forest, accompanied by a page, to seek advice from a wise bird. As is evident here, weavers often took some liberties with Munthe's design in terms of both color and composition. So we see the watercolor Munthe made on the left and the woven tapestry that resulted on the right. From 1896 to 99, Munthe and his friend Erik Werenskiold created the illustrations to a luxurious volume of the works of the early 13th century Icelandic poet and historian Snorri Sturluson. And from illustration, painting, and tapestry design, Munthe branched out further to interior decoration and furniture design. Here we see his drawing for the lower panel of his Valhalla cabinet, conceived in the mid-1890s and made by the gifted cabinet maker Johan Borgerson. The 2 men collaborated on the interior of the Holmenkollen tourist hotel in Christiania, which was destroyed by fire in 1914. Here you see some of the few objects rescued from that magnificent hotel. The singularity of the Norwegian character that Munthe hoped to convey in his various creative productions was recognized at home and abroad. In 1896, the German art historian Gerhard Munthe wrote, "In the Norwegians, there is a robust strength, something ascetic, honest, and at once brusque and warm-hearted, an earnest and quite unvarnished sincerity. One feels that one is in a country inhabited by a rude, scattered population, a nation of fishermen and peasants. Christiania is the Sparta of the North. In no country in the world has man had such a hard fight with nature. And so it is that the Norwegian people seem so quiet, inflexible, and composed, such veritable men of iron." For the rest of his life, Munthe continued to create works in a wide variety of media: tapestry and furniture design, book illustration, and painting, always finding inspiration in the nature, traditions, and material culture of his homeland. If you enjoyed this content, please hit the thumbs up button and check out my other Nordic art videos. If you'd like to keep current with new videos or support this project, please subscribe to my channel. It does make a difference. Leave comments and questions in the section below, and check out my website for related articles, books, lectures, and blog posts. What would you like to learn about Scandinavian art?